Hello, everyone. How is everyone today? I'm super excited to have a wonderful Worldschool mom and Worldschool Hub organizer, creator, Louise Morris. She's a co-creator of the Luxor Learning Hub in Egypt. She also does Egypt family tours and immersion experiences. She's an entrepreneur, a business coach, a self-directed learning advocate, as am I, and a world schooling mama. So we have a couple of things in common. Welcome, Louise. I'm so glad to have you here. I wanted to a while ago when we had the panel of Worldschool Hub creators, but you weren't able to make it. So I'm so glad to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and thank you for having me here. Yeah, I feel, privileged to be in your group of all these world schoolers and chatting with you. So all good today.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Louise's Hub. She has been running it for a while, but she is going to stop it, I think, in March, and it's sold out. So unfortunately, her wonderful hub you cannot enroll in. Louise, you said that you'll be doing trips in the future, but Louise just published a blog article, which we will share with everyone, on how to find the right Worldschool Hub. So I'm so glad that you're able to share your experience and wisdom with all of us. So we will share that blog. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family. What's your background? Where are you from? You're from the UK, correct?
Yeah, so I'm back in the UK where I'm born and where my children were born. My children are 11 and 9 years old. I have a boy who's 9, a girl who's 11.
Okay.
And we have always done out of a normal schooling system. So our background really is when my son was 3 months old, we didn't want to go back to work. We didn't want to leave our children with childcare people, and we didn't know how we were going to do it, but we just knew that we needed to move and go somewhere. So we sold all our things and we went to France to live the good life. And that was the start of our journey, and that was 10 years ago now. And then since then, we've lived all over the world, in Bali, Mexico, Guatemala, now Egypt. And we've always traveled with the children, but we don't do fast traveling. We're slow travelers. We go somewhere and we stay for like 2 or 3 years sometimes. Oh. So that's kind of like our travel story. And in regards to learning and education, I guess that came organically after having children. I didn't really know what our path was going to be. But from an early age, I knew it wasn't going to be standard school. And my children have dipped in and out of things like walled off kindergartens and forest school. And when we've traveled, we've joined, home ed communities. They've maybe gone to like immersion programs in like Guatemala. They went to a little Spanish local school. But really, we've just been trying to live in the moment and try and create whatever it is that we need for ourselves, and either join communities or try and help other communities start or thrive. Wonderful. So that's our travel journey. And the only way I could do that, as you know, Liz, is that you have to earn money, was to work online. And I used to work at BBC. It wasn't very flexible, with 2 young children. So I left and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I could earn money online somehow. So I just started to learn how to be a PA, but online, doing admin for people, doing marketing. And that was 10 years ago also, while I had the young kids, and, progressed from there doing that. Yeah, that's my story, really, okay. How we've managed to get this far.
Great background. So how did you end up in Egypt? And how did the idea for the Luxor Learning Hub come about?
Yeah, it's a great story and a great question. Luxor Learning Hub was never something that I had planned. These things never planned. It's usually, comes after an incident. And like everyone else, like you, I don't know where you were during 2021. We got stuck in Portugal. We built out a camper van actually in the very beginning part of COVID, with the kids, and we did it on the pavement outside of our apartment in London. And then we left just before the second lockdown, and then 4 months into that journey, we crashed the van and it was a write-off. So our home basically disappeared in a second. And luckily we were all okay. Yeah, it was crazy. We were in the middle of a pandemic in a country that's not our own, didn't really know what we were going to do. And we stayed there for another 3 months, but it was so expensive and actually more strict than what we were used to back in the UK, which just kind of didn't suit us. So, online, there's lots of travel groups like this. There was a travel group called Awakened Travelers at the time. I think it's been taken down. And people were going to countries that were open, like Albania and Egypt. And I thought, Egypt's hot. A lot of people spend time outside. I want to go to Egypt and we can go to all the temples. They're all outside, not breaking any rules. And it's open, they're accepting tourists. So that's how I got to Egypt.
Okay. So then you were there just as a World School family, but how did the hub idea come about?
Yeah, so we got there early in 2021, and there's no foreigners there. There's no, some places you go to, and this is a great topic that we'll talk about later, but some places have lots of world scholars, Bulgaria, Mexico, and so there's a bit of a community there. But in Egypt, there's just nothing. Before we got there in Luxor, where we live now, where our home is, there was no families at all. So it was all local families and nothing that resembled any kind of education that we were used to. And the kids needed friends, I needed friends. So we just put it out there in the Worldschooling community. Who would like to come to Egypt? It's open. Who's still traveling or who can travel? And, suddenly all these people started saying, hey, me. And so at first we just hired a garden in a hotel, we thought, there's quite a lot of interest. So we hired this garden. We were just going to put on some loose activities, every morning. And that's how it started, really.
Okay, wonderful. So it just started organically. You were doing something for your family, invited everyone to join. That's super. So, okay, so you created a hub. Again, I don't want to go too in depth with it, but because you're not taking any more families, but you focus on self-directed learning. You're outside a lot. It's kind of like a nature-based program of kids of varying ages. And then you decided to, so stop doing it for a while, but you wrote this great article and we'll share it. Why did you want to talk about your wonderful ideas, and share it with everyone else?
I think because, Liz, you've been Worldschooling for a long time. Back in the day, there was no hubs. There was just, we would meet up in places and there'd be other families and we would kind of hash together some things. And it's great. I think it's great that there are so many hubs now and options. But on the flip side, there are so many now. Like in 2023, there's just an explosion of people traveling and new families as well. And there's just so many different types of hubs out there. And I think it can be really confusing.
Yeah.
Because if you're new, you think,
some of them come and go, so some of them are either by design a temporary pop-up or hub, and others plan to do it for a while and it's overwhelming. We've talked about how to solve that problem, which we'll mention in a minute. But I think for us families as the customers, I think this advice that you're going to be sharing soon is really good because you need to, obviously you're spending money. You want to make sure you find a hub that is a good fit for your family and provides what you guys are looking for and all of that. Well, first, let's talk about what is a Worldschool Hub, because there's different kinds. There's organized ones and then more organic, casual ones, right? There are permanent hubs and pop-ups, temporary hubs. So let's talk about what is a Worldschooling Hub?
So Worldschooling term, came about when families started traveling and the idea that children are learning from the world. So that's the term Worldschooling. But today it's an umbrella term for, and particularly when it comes to hubs, and the way I see it is the gathering of people, families, that come together in a particular location, and either a group of people or one person is organizing some activities. And it could be organic, but the article actually is focusing more on the hubs that are available now because there's so many. And there are so many different types of pay hubs. And a hub basically is maybe loosely organized or very organized educational or activity-based or family-based program. So, for example, you might want to go to Japan and then you think, well, I don't know anything about Japan, but there's this hub in this particular area and they have a program and it's for 2 weeks with, possibility of traveling with the other families. So a hub in essence is just a gathering of families who want to share in that local culture or that location together. And it's usually run by a group or individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the main concerns for parents, for families, is the lack of socialization if you're just traveling around with just the parents and the kids. And, you know, sometimes you meet locals or expats and meet them, but then you leave and it's sad to say goodbye. So it's nice to find like-minded families. I mean, I really do love immersing in the local culture, but sometimes it's nice to find other families that are in the same situation you are, you know, nomadic and roaming the world and learning from it, because often you will see them over and over again. At least that's been our experience. And so that does solve, I think, the socialization issue. And my kids are 14 now. We've been traveling for about 7 years, and they keep in touch now with a lot of the teens, you know, the kids that they meet, you know, on Instagram or Snapchat or Discord or whatnot. Socializing is possible long term.
I think it's a great point you said. One of the things that I felt when I was traveling, I was a single mom for a long time with children, is that you do meet people when you're traveling, but it's very sporadic and not consistent. Yeah. And sometimes that can feel a little bit lonely, you know, because one minute they're there and then because there's no commitment to stay all together, you know, because people can come and go as they want. You might just end up having a play date here and there, or you might go here once. And like you say, the children want consistent friendships. And so these hubs are great for reappearing and igniting those friendships for the parents and for the children. They'll say, like, oh, we're going to Mexico, or we're going to go to Bangkok and see our friends again. Yeah. So I think that's the thing about hubs now. We've got so much choice to travel and meet our friends again.
Exactly. Louise, your audio seems to be coming out a little bit. I want to ask the people watching now, can you hear her clearly, or is it coming in and out? Again, I'm not sure what kind of Wi-Fi situation you're on. I can hear you, but it just comes in and out. But let's continue. So let's talk about what families should ask themselves when thinking about a hub, because again, some people really love doing hubs. Others, you know, don't think that it's necessarily. So what type of a person would benefit from a hub, and what should they ask themselves?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's lots of different types of hubs, and what questions should they ask? So, you know, if you're wanting to travel fast, some people are traveling just for 1 year, for example. Yeah. May not have the luxury of spending 1, 2, 3 months in one location. So you might want to look for a hub that's really well organized, that has good local knowledge, and is going to visit lots of various sites of interest in a really small amount of time. Right. I was going to check on the audio. Is it okay? Or?
Well, they are saying it is coming in and out, and somebody suggested, which I think is a good idea, if you could just turn off your video, so maybe the audio, we can hear you better. Can you try to turn? Let's see if that helps. And then, you know, in the future, I do want to turn these into a podcast. So the audio is more important anyway. We love seeing your beautiful face
together.
Okay, speak, and let me just hear if it's better.
No, is the audio okay? Is it smooth?
It's better. Yeah, it's better. So sorry. Let's put your audio back on later when we say goodbye. But for now,
sorry about that, peeps.
Okay, so continue what you were saying.
So yeah, you know, if you're like on a very busy schedule, some people like to travel fast. Then there's, you know, Rachel Hislong has her Worldschool pop-ups. They're a week long. They're very affordable, but they're not like an extended period. So, you know, there's a very big difference between that and staying somewhere for 1, 2, or 3 months, for example. Yeah. So I think it's good when you set out. So if you're new to all this, you might say to yourself, well, what's good for me? Well, look at the style of traveling that you're doing. Look at the budget that you have. Look at what you want to achieve out of the journey. If it's to have consistent friendship over a longer period of time, then these 1 week pop-ups most probably wouldn't suit you, because you're going to just see someone for a week and then you've got the rest of the year, you know, to plan out in your schedule. So maybe you would look for a longer term hub. So I think that's the big difference between the two. Another thing that's really important, I think, when picking a hub is to look at who's organizing the hub. Have they run a hub before? What experience do they have? I think now in 2023, a lot of hub creators are just traveling families like us, you know. They've gone somewhere, they've liked the location, or they're going somewhere and they want other friends and family, other people to join them. And the thing you need to remember is, are they capable of holding that space? Do they have a lot of good local knowledge? are you going to get what you want out of that experience? Because the worst thing is thinking you're going to get something and you arrive and it's not what you thought it was. So this is why the article, it's got, 12 questions that you should be asking your hub creators and 10 questions you should ask yourself, because actually not all hubs are the same. So they shouldn't be treated the same.
Right. And so you also mentioned in your article about do families need to work? Do parents need to work? And therefore they need their kids to be busy with some type of supervised care or a school or learning environment. So that is one thing to think about, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important because, money doesn't grow on trees. We all have to pay for this, great lifestyle that we have. And like yourself, I work online and I work at the hub. So when I'm traveling, I need somewhere where I can, have some time away from my kids or have some concentrated time. And for some parents, that's imperative. They need to have some supervised care. So right. Our hub offers, say, for example, 20 hours a week of supervised care. And that means, parents can work and they can still enjoy their travels.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And then I think one thing you mentioned is if you're looking for a program just for your kids or for the whole family, because our friend Emmy has a family community and it's not just, dropping off a kid and then leaving, she really wants the whole family to participate. So what about yours?
Yeah, ours is a combination of both. We have a really good, thriving community. So we do provide, I don't like to call it supervised care, but it's just to give the idea, children come to our hub from 9 to 1, 5 mornings a week. They have a great time. And then afterwards, we have a family program. We have touch-based meals, temple club. When they arrive, we have an initiation where we show where you can do all these wonderful sports and horse riding and pottery. So there's a lot of socialization afterwards, but there are some hubs where you can go to, and I'll use, for example, Boundless. They have both an education and a socialization package. You're paying for both. Whereas at our hub, it's kind of like a gesture. I live in a small town. I know where the things are. So when people come, we kind of help them, book temples, and we have organic, potluck lunches and things like that.
Yeah. And yeah, the pricing for these hubs are all over the map. On the high end, you have Boundless. There's a couple others. And then there's, again, the more organic, casual ones have a very low price, but it does involve more parental involvement and helping. It's kind of like a homeschool co-op, but in a world school setting. So I think, I have families that talk to me and they say, we would love to find community, but we can't afford the prices at the hub. So I just say, look for places around the world where there's just a casual, organic gathering of families and where everyone chips in. If you're able to do that, you are. And I have done that and it's been great. But then also as a single mama too, I need to work. So I'm happy to just pay a hub organizer to keep my kids, occupied and they're socializing with other kids and learning stuff. Okay, so let's talk about what are the top questions that we should ask hub organizers.
Right, let me pull that up. So yeah, I think the first one you should ask is, what does the fee, because I think sometimes the fees seem expensive on the initial, onset. You think, wow, that seems a lot of money. So ask, what is the fee including? Does it include accommodation? Does it include educational package? Does it include external activities for all the family? Does it include an on-the-ground advisor who's going to give you information about local tours and events and things like that? So when you add all of that up, that's, going to cost you, if you were going to pay for that individually, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Okay. So just be clear about what it is that's included in the price, and weigh up the value ratio to what you're getting. Mm-hmm. Because I think when these new hubs gators are starting, no one knows really what to charge. You might have an idea. I remember when I first started, I charged £275, Liz, for 6 weeks. It was ridiculous. It was so cheap. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. So at the other end of the spectrum,
pay other people and vendors and supplies.
You need to pay people. You need to pay yourself. And a lot of people forget that the hub creators put a lot of time, energy, blood, sweat, tears away from their family to run these hubs.
Right.
And I think if it's a newer hub, I definitely would be asking, where's the money going? Who's leading the group? Definitely if you want supervised care, who is leading that, who is doing the activities. And I think that's good to ask. Another thing to ask is, are you going to be able to do other things? So, for example, if you come to a hub in Egypt, but you're in the middle of Siwa, for example, Siwa is 12 hours away from Cairo. And that's going to be a long journey to get to Cairo, to get to all the other beautiful parts of Egypt. So it's just thinking about, is this the location for me if I'm going to spend a month here? Is it going to be one of the questions I asked, is it going to be the right tribe for me? You know, like some hubs have a vibe, you know, you can just sense it. I think it's good that you should do an interview maybe with the hub creators and say, hey, can we talk on the phone? I definitely wouldn't be handing over any cash without having, like a conversation face to face. You can learn more and more about them.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think what's important if you want community for your kids is to make sure you ask, what's the policy on the type of, not the type of children, but the children that are going to come onto the program? What ages are they? How do they learn? For us, it's really important that you are self-directed aware. So you're not just coming from school where you're in a really structured setting, you are actually practicing self-direction, because then you've got like more of a harmonious child-led community. Everyone understands. Some parts maybe don't have that in place, and then I think you just need to be sure about what it is you want for your child. Are they going to feel comfortable in the environment that you book them in for?
Yeah, those are all great tips. I think, again, I've experienced several hubs, and finding the right tribe, as you say, is important. And I do think it's good if the hub organizer, it takes time, but has a short Zoom with everyone. And also hub organizers, I think, nowadays they are choosing who to accept into their community, because some people can be really demanding, or they have different expectations. And, I think you have to be on the same page, to have the hub organized to say, this is what we offer. And then if it works for you, great, because I know some families are like, oh, well, we need all these extra things, or my kid is whatever, neurodivergent, or, that we have allergies, or, we can't deal with that diet that you're offering for lunch, that kind of stuff. So I think those are all really important things to chat with about with the organizer, to find out, what it is. I mean, during COVID, there was, a big issue in some hubs who were people who didn't want to vaccinate and people who did want to vaccinate. And then what would be the policy if COVID or any other illness broke out? Like you have to think about those.
Yeah, I think it's important that you check those boxes. Yeah, you're right, Liz. Like during COVID, that's a great example. If you turn up to a hub and it's not kind of like your tribe, you're going to feel not very comfortable. I think that happens very rarely, but it's still important that you find out what is the vibe, what kind of, we're really much into nature. We don't do tech. Kids are playing in mud. They're making bow and arrows. They're using their hands. Yeah. So, if your kid is not really into that, they're not going to really have a good time at our hubs. So it's really important you make sure you're very clear about what you want to do, and is your child going to enjoy it?
Yeah, I think a lot of Worldschool hubs are run by Worldschoolers who have been doing it for a while, and they've really moved away from this structured, rigid, traditional type of learning, and are doing more like what you're saying, more holistic, self-directed, outdoors, that kind of stuff. Because we've learned that our kids learn so much just physically out in the world. But people who are new to this lifestyle, I mean, they think we're all weird hippies, whatever. And, our kids are not going to go get into Harvard, which is fine. I don't think my kids want to go there. But I think if people are looking for something more traditional, most Worldschool hubs won't be a good fit. You should try to find a local international baccalaureate type school, those places to put your kids, and some of them may not take short-term students. But yeah, so that is good to know.
That's true. I think a lot of, so we do interviews, and sometimes this is where you need to know your expectations, because sometimes people say, oh, that sounds so romantic, being in nature, building mud ovens and whatnot, but your child has been in formal education for like 12 years. So, be really honest about what it is that you really want to do. Is it that? Do you really want to do that kind of unstructured environment?
Yeah.
So that you don't turn up to a program and it's so unstructured that you think, well, actually, I thought this was a learning environment. But of course, you learn in self-direction, but not in the way that you thought.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah,
being clear with your own intention.
yeah, I've seen kids who, again, they just left the traditional system. They show up. The other kids who've been doing this for a while, they're getting their hands dirty and building projects and coming up with ideas. And they're just standing there like, teacher, you know, what do I do? And they haven't de-schooled yet. So I think it's important for kids to de-school and parents to de-school for a bit before getting into one of these more kind of organic learning environments.
And it's okay if you want to, you know, if you want a, you know, some sort of hub like that, there are some available, you know, there are more structured school-like hubs. So it's just not comparing every hub to be the same, because they're all very different. And, you know, some hubs are just
more structured.
Go on.
Which would you say are more, which would you say are more structured? Like Boundless, they have a standard model, which is not super structured, but more than yours.
I mean, to be honest, Liz, I can't keep up with the amount of hubs that there are at the moment, but, you know, it's good to look into what they're offering. You know, maybe they offer more maths, or they might offer a language lesson, or they might have some online learning. I know there was a hub that's not around anymore, but they were more about STEM education and learning on the iPad and having teachers like video in. And, you know, for me, that wouldn't work at all. But for some people, it really works. So you just need to be really honest with what it is that you want to do. And so you don't turn up and think, well, this is not what I thought it was.
Okay. I just wanted to ask those who are watching right now to please type in your questions for Louise in the chat. Sorry, her video is not working today, but we're just hearing her.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can change over the internet, but I don't know if that's going to make any difference.
No, it's fine. We'll have you show up your face at the end before goodbye, so everyone can see your lovely face. Let's talk about fees, because again, some offer accommodation, some offer a full-on school, others more kind of casual meetups, activities, field trips. You know, some you have to pay your own electricity, or, you know, out of the hub activities. You know, and yeah. I mean, again, the hub I know the best is the Worldschool Hub, because I went 2 years in a row and I'm going again this coming year. And she now has a package which has a lot of the external activities like horse riding and going to the hot springs and, you know, rock climbing, all these other fun out of the hub things where she has to negotiate with vendors. That's included. And then she has a more a la carte option. So it's good that she has both options. But yeah, so what other advice would you have about that?
Well, that's a really good point, because I think sometimes people don't read the literature. Yeah. You know, they just see the Facebook posts and they say, wow, I want to go to Costa Rica, and look at that beautiful picture of the horse riding and the, you know, the organic gardening and whatever, and they forget to do the vetting process. So this is why I made the blog, because actually maybe when you get there, you have to pay for the horse riding, and you may have to pay for the external trips, and then so obviously that adds up. So I think it's really important that you don't sign up and go, wow, it sounds amazing, you know, get bought by the marketing of the actual hub that's being offered, because I see some amazing marketing now, but you know, what are we going to get from us paying the fee for the hub? And so if it's an all-in fee, yeah, you're going to pay more, because you're paying for activities, you're paying for trips. We have adventure trips for 10 days, and yeah, they're way more than our hub fees for the month, you know, and they're just for 10 days, but we do all the organizing, we're a tour guide, we plan all the trips, all the entrance fees. So when our guests come to the hub, we actually have a flat, very easy to understand system. Your exchange of energy to come to our hub is a very simple fee. It's for the hub, and everything else out of that you have to pay. You know, you have to pay for. And I think it's just being very aware of what you're paying for, so you don't think it's all the same. And sometimes, you know, you have to weigh up, is the activity a good rate? Is it well organized? Is it, you know, if it's the horse riding, for example, is it with a reputable company? All these sort of things. So you're paying for that vetting, you know, for the hub organizer to do all that work before you get there, to have all these organized activities for you. Right. In regards to electricity, that's a really interesting one as well. We try and do all-in prices, so it's really simple to understand. But yeah, maybe you'll have to pay electricity. How much does it cost to buy food locally? Maybe the internet's not included. So you just need to think about these things on top of, you know, the initial fee that you pay.
Yeah, I think the electricity, because of the Russian-Ukraine situation around Europe, whoever gets gas and electricity from Russia, prices have gone really high. And I think it's, you know, a lot of apartments or places want you to pay electricity separately. So you will be more conscientious and not like blast the heat all day long when you're, or the AC.
You would think so. Sometimes I'm always very shocked about how many ACs get left on. But yeah, I mean, Egypt's a very affordable place, so we can afford to keep the electricity included. But other places, it's not so affordable. So I can understand the landlords not including that.
Right, exactly. Okay, so Stephanie Tolk says hello. Stephanie is planning to launch some hubs.
Hey, Stephanie. Stephanie came to our first hub, actually.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Yeah, and then Alina, she wants tell us again the ages of your kids. She's asking.
Yeah, my daughter's 11 and my son's 9. And
you
what
guys,
ages are your kids?
Yeah, you were traveling for about 10 years, so most of their life. And Alina says your face is truly beautiful, which is true.
Oh, thank you.
So these are great tips. We will put the whole article in the chat. Can you tell us what you have planned for the future? Because you said you're going to be doing trips in the future. And I have a question. Your Luxor Hub, do you want to sell the business or have somebody take over? Because you already created this really nice program. Why just stop?
Well, one thing that you know as well is that creating a hub is a serious amount of work. If you're doing it well, we've been doing this for 3 years, which is most probably longer than most hub creators. Yeah. You know, a lot of people do one hub and they don't realize how much peopling you have to do. You know, in every hub we have 12 to 15 families. They all have individual needs, and then the children and booking. And so for me, I need a break. But it doesn't mean that the hub isn't going to be in a different format, maybe in a different country. We're still going to be doing adventure trips in Egypt, which we're going to be doing more of throughout the year. So things like Nile trips, and we've got a Red Sea marine camp with a camp that we align with on the Red Sea. So a good question. Why have I not sold the business? Well, Egypt is not the easiest place to do business. My husband is Egyptian. Some other places you might be able to just rock up and like invite people and do a hub, but Egypt is not one of those places. You know, you have to have a local that you trust on the ground, otherwise you can get burned very quickly. So even now, you know, people have tried to copy our hub, even in Luxor, and they got burned very quickly. So we're lucky that, well, I'm lucky that I have my husband and everyone who comes to our hub loves Abdul. He's an amazing guy, and he's a very honest, and he helps all the families out. So I think that's why I couldn't do that. Yeah. And I'll be using it in a different country. So we're trying to set up something else in Portugal. And my daughter, who's really into art, we're trying to set up an art conservatoire where, you know, different artists and different practitioners come in and teach every month or every 2 or 3 months. And that can go towards like a qualification in art, maybe GCSE or a baccalaureate.
Oh, great.
And for my son, he's just going to hang out more, making bow and arrows, running around, join a local forest school or something like that.
Wonderful. Alina's asking the age of the hub of your hub kids. And again, Alina, Louise is going to stop running her hub in the future, so this question doesn't really matter because she's full. But I think you were accepting what, 3 to 15-year-olds or something?
Yeah, we've had, you know, our median age is like 7 to 13, okay. And this year we've got lots of teenagers booking, and we've had younger kids booking. We have a kindergarten now, our hub. We have 135 children booked in this winter. Yeah. And but there are hubs, like Emmy's hub is a very teen focused hub. You know, there's hubs that just for whatever reason they generate a particular age group, and that's a really good question, because I think some hubs, they may want more teens, or they may think that it's a teen hub, but actually they're more geared towards younger children. Yeah. So I think it's really good if you have a certain age child, particularly teens and tweens, that you really grill down into the vetting process and ask, how many teens are booked on? You know?
We started traveling when my kids were 7.5. And again, we went to the Stone Soup Pop-Up, which I'm in touch with.
Oh, wow.
Azizi. Yeah. I'm in touch with.
Yeah.
She may have something in the future, and I might want her to join our little conversation that we're having.
Yeah. I love it easy. And I was going to go to the Guatemala one when I was living in Guatemala. There was a Stone Soup.
Yeah, but then that we were stopped because of COVID. But now that my kids are teens, most of the hubs I see right now do not cater, they just have younger kids. So finding one with teens is harder. Emmy's daughter, Dorisha, is 15. So that's why the Worldschool Hub has a good size teen group, because one of the co-creators, which is the teen girl, she really wanted a lot of teens to show up. So we intentionally try to find places with teens, just because, again, my daughters have a hard time with a lot of, I would say, 5 to 13-year-olds screaming, running around. And so I actually hosted a 1-month teen hub in Fethiye, Turkey for a month. It was a great experience, but we decided not to get into the hub business, and we would just try to promote them instead, help you guys. And so we've been talking with Louise, you and I have been talking with other experienced hub creators about possibly putting together a course for people who want to launch a hub, because we know that it's so hard and so many people just wing it, they launch it, they don't really do their research, they don't anticipate all the hurdles and problems. So the problem is we're all too busy to really do this right now, but we are kind of banding together, having some conversations, starting to think about it. So if you guys want to launch a hub, let us know in the chat if you would be interested in taking a course it wouldn't be a huge long course, but we would have to organize in advance, record stuff, have a whole plan, and then you would come and take the course and then have Q&A access to everyone while you're launching your hub. So we selfishly want more hubs to exist because there's a big demand for them. They're not easy to run. So I think that if the group of people who want to launch one have some training, have some understanding, know what to anticipate, and don't have to, reinvent the wheel. They can get trained by people who have been there, done that. So
I think it's good. I think there's a huge underestimation, and I think what I would love to see in the Worldschooling Hub world is that, because we're families, we want to go to hubs all around the world, right?
Yeah.
But usually what happens, and what we've seen over the last couple of years, is they start and then they finish, and I'm finishing because it's so much work. It's not sustainable in the way that people are going to hubs and demanding what they want, and also in the hub creators. So what we want to create is something where there's sustainability, because Worldschooling is a big movement now. It includes so many different types of people. So if we can have hubs that are lasting 2, 3 years, 4 years, then it's going to be really nice for people to travel around. They won't have to feel so lonely while they're traveling. The hubs will have support, And I think it's an underestimation to think that you can just wing it. Right. Not just saying it from a hub point of view, it's so much work. And if you're doing one-offs, it's okay. Maybe you can wing it. But if you want to do it again and again, you want it to be sustainable, your energy, you have to, be really mindful of the principles that go into it, and the energy that you put out.
Yeah. And on the other side, for us families, I think it's good that we are savvy consumers and asking the questions like Louise is suggesting, but you need to kind of have realistic expectations. These hub creators are families, doing this out of their goodness of their hearts. Blood, sweat, and tears. Most of you are not making a big profit from it. So those people who demand a lot of exceptions, a lot of special treatment, who are, have very high expectations, these hubs, you're the people who have the hub creators burn out and stop doing it. I do know hub creators who have stopped doing it because of some of the small percentage of very demanding customers that they've had, and they talk amongst themselves and they know who are the difficult families. So I just want to warn everyone. Of course, be a savvy consumer, ask questions, but if you overdo it and if you don't follow the rules, for example, that are clearly outlined, and go to the hub and break the rules, and then you're either asked to leave or not to come back. Don't go on Facebook complaining about these hubs, because they're like, we told you, like, we have rules. And anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, me, Emmy, Kate, Britton Ellis, I can't remember her name, Wanderlust World School, Patty, Robin. I'm shouting these people out right now because I know how much blood, sweat, and tears, literally, that they've put into what they do. And that's the thing. We want hubs that like come from a core of doing really great educational experiences, family experiences, so that they're so amazing and that everyone involved, including the hub creator and the people coming, are equally having a good time. Because this is not a service business. This is, you know, this is not like, you know, I'm booking through after, yeah, exactly, TUI. You know, we're giving our personal effort and energy into this. And I think it will be great if there was more, you know, really good world schools out there. So this is why we wrote, this is why we're going to do the course, and this is why I did the article, just so we can have more clarity and open talk about what is available, what we can do, what we can't do, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's why I interview you guys to share like how the ins and outs of this. So Louise, why don't you turn your video back on so we can see your beautiful face, and we'll say goodbye because I know you have, Louise, we see you now. Thank you so much for your wisdom, and I'm going to copy and paste your article down below and the website for the Luxor Hub. Even though you're full and not taking any more families, you're going to end that, at least for this time around, in March, so, or end of March, I don't know. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Liz. I've really enjoyed being here. I love talking about world schooling. I love what you do in this group. It's such a great community. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And again, people, if they ask questions, Louise is in the group, so try to tag her, and then hopefully she'll come back later and respond to your any questions if you're watching the replay or whatever. Okay. So thanks, Louise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Liz Quain. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for about 7 years, and I'm happy to share our experiences. Make sure to check out all the other videos on my channel. I have a playlist of interviews of fascinating world school families and service providers who share lots of info and wisdom about world schooling, traveling, and the digital nomad family lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling or have recently launched and are struggling because you're kind of winging it, if you need some help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to world school and travel extensively as a family. I share lots of info on travel logistics, where to go, how to find community, how to immerse yourself into local cultures, and the variety of ways to educate your kids while traveling above and beyond homeschooling them yourself, and much, much more. Make sure to watch my free 2-hour masterclass on how to become a world schooling trailblazing family. That is a great way to learn how to get started. I'll include a link in the description with more info. Thanks and happy trails.